Piers and Ashley are here to discuss some of the headlines. Let's start with another headline, another day, about Prince Andrew. More and more pressure is being sort of lumped onto Prince Andrew in various directions. This time it's all about the Royal Lodge. Should he be allowed to stay in the Royal Lodge, Piers? I mean, it's an extraordinary property.
Can I be honest? I don't really care about the building part of this scandal. It's a complicated setup. He's paid, I think, £7.5 million, including millions up front to cover the rent for a number of years.
For the upkeep and so on.
And for the upkeep and so on. So that's a contractual thing, really, with the way he constructed his lease. It's not really about where he's living now. He doesn't perform any public duties and so on. He's been pretty well humiliated. The big problem with this story remains that there's been no man held accountable for any of the abuse of up to 2,000 young women. 2,000 young women. The only person who's in prison as a result of all this abuse is Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman. Epstein cheated accountability by taking his life. And with Andrew, we just don't know. Let's be clear, we do not know.
He's vehemently denied any accusation.
Well, he did, but let's remember that he did say, I want my day in court against Virginia Giuffre when she was still alive. He was going to have his day in court. I'm going to clear my name. I'm looking forward to it. And at the last minute, he caved and he paid a reported $11 million to somebody he said to Emily Maitlis in that Newsnight interview he'd never met. Now, none of that rings right, but it doesn't mean he's guilty. However, we're now seeing in the US Congress a stream of leaked emails from the Epstein files, and the more that comes out, the more it is clear he did not tell Emily Maitlis the truth, particularly about the timeline of how long he stayed in touch with Epstein, which turns out to be a lot longer. And the last email was so damning. It was something like, I hope we can play together again. What does that mean? So Andrew has a lot of questions to answer. My fear is there's going to be more drip, drip, drip of these emails, and it's actually going to get a lot worse.
I would say that actually where he is living is a really big deal, and I hate to say, but I agree with you on everything
that's a good start. I'm proud of you.
that you have said so far.
And obviously, eventually agreeing with everything I said.
My main concern is obviously with Epstein's victims, and my heart is with them. And obviously, there's more that's come to light about potentially Andrew asking his security personnel to dig up dirt on her, which is a huge abuse of power. But in terms of him staying in the Crown Estate, obviously he did pay an upfront fee, but it's very minimal, let's remember, compared to what any of us would have to pay if we were to rent that property. And I think the optics for the royal family, it doesn't look good for him to be living in royal lodges, especially. It doesn't seem fair during a cost of living crisis. Lots of the nation are struggling to keep up with bills, to pay rent, there's homelessness. And for him just to get, no accountability, it seems like there's no accountability, no fairness, and other royals have had to move out of royal lodges for much less.
Well, there's one thing he could do, right, which is he could talk to the FBI, who have been investigating this for a number of years, under oath. Right? This is something he's never done. Right? If he's telling the truth, and it's a big if, I think. If he is, fine, then you should have no problem, no concern in going under oath talking to the investigating authorities in America. This Epstein scandal has a long way to go. I spoke to Virginia Giuffre's lawyer, a guy called David Boies, a few weeks ago on my show, Uncensored, and he said that there are a number of men there who, in his opinion, are in those files who should warrant criminal prosecution. Right, well, who are they? What are their names? What did they do? What are the allegations? It's all in these files, and it's just dripping out.
And it does feel like it's not going to go anywhere. So it's like this continuous drip feed. Surely he should just confront it head on.
And that's so damaging to the royal family.
Because he's lying.
You're King Charles.
You've got King Charles who's about to, for the first time in hundreds of years, go and meet a Pope and pray with the Pope. All these amazing things that the Crown are trying to do, that they are trying to lead by example. And yet every day they're waking up to another headline about Prince Andrew.
That's the problem. And I think you saw the really uncomfortable thing recently. I think it was the Duchess of Kent's funeral. And you saw Andrew sort of muscling his way into the front to stand next to the next King, William. And you can see how awkward William found that, because the optics of that are terrible for the royal family.
He's now said he doesn't want him at his coronation when eventually that
Well, you
comes
can't
out.
blame him, because all the attention will be on Andrew at the coronation. And until Andrew actually does what he said he wanted to do, which is come clean, as he put it, have his day, go under oath and tell the truth, whatever that may be, I don't think he can hide behind you know, why do you give $11 million to someone you've never met? None of it makes any sense. It doesn't mean he's guilty, but it doesn't make any sense. And I think the British public are like, come on, there's something wrong about it.
I think more to the point, because if this happened to anyone else, like the British public, there would have to be accountability. And it does feel like the Epstein, like the protection around every involvement within the Epstein situation is it's people at the top protecting people at the top. And so the royal family shouldn't be protecting anyone within their circles either.
It's hard, and I'll tell you why it's hard. If they cut him off, right?
Where does he go?
Well, A, where does he go?
But he can get a job like everyone else.
What does he then do? Does he then do a book in which he reveals a lot of damaging information? Does he go full Harry with bells on, right, and do a very damaging book telling all the stories he could tell about the inside of the royal family?
Maybe the public deserve to know that.
Well, maybe they do, but actually, if you believe in the monarchy as I do, if you like the royal family as I do, you think they bring a lot to this country. Actually, that kind of bomb scenario going off in terms of a book which caused a lot of damage. So if he's desperate and has no money and nowhere to live and he's being ostracised and thrown out by the family, you know, there are practical realities to what the royal family can do here, which actually would not further damage the reputation of the monarchy. So they've got to be careful.
What do you think is going to happen to Maxwell now she met Donald Trump and then she got moved to a lesser prison? Yeah.
I don't think she's going to get pardoned.
You don't think Donald Trump will?
I think a lot of Republicans in America absolutely, but that's not happening. And I don't believe her account anyway of, you know, I was an innocent victim of all this. She was thick as thieves with Epstein for a long period of time. She knew. A lot of these girl victims, the young women who've come forward, told their stories, they all say she was like the fixer for all this stuff. So that's why she's serving a 20-plus year prison sentence.
The accusations in Virginia Giuffre's book about how she was controlling Virginia Giuffre and the girls is damning. I mean,
the book is harrowing.
It's awful. When she talks about her
it's
father
gut-wrenching,
well.
you know, and it's really of a damaged young woman who then got, you know, sort of preyed on by Epstein. Who knew she was damaged, and that was his perfect kind of victim. Someone who was damaged, looking for somewhere to exist. He took her in, and like a lot of these girls, he then began the abuse, and then sharing with friends and associates and bringing these other girls in. It is a horrible scandal, but it's incredible. Not a single person, other than Ghislaine Maxwell, has actually been held accountable for this. Not one, not a single man. Somebody was abusing all these girls. Like, who are they? They're in these files, and why they've not released the whole lot in itself stinks, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Let's move on to story number 2 now. So Nick Clegg has revealed...
We almost agreed. I mean, this is like a little yin and yang.
I mean, I'm glad we agree, because I think it's very hard to disagree on that topic. So I'm glad to know that you do have a conscience in there somewhere.
Wow. Wow.
There's a heart. So Nick Clegg has revealed he got in trouble and upset his younger colleagues on his first day working at Meta after making a joke about the motivational posters displayed. Are we too quick to take a...
Well, I mean, you know, if you say the joke...
This is
why, if you're wondering why I've written a book called Woke is Dead, which, by the way, you should buy, it's great. If you're wondering why, this is what Clegg did. He goes in. He was already pretty woke to start with, Nick Clegg, right?
Yeah.
He was the king of woke in politics here.
Yeah.
Goes and works for Facebook. Day one, he thinks, I'll lighten the load a bit. And they had a sign, apparently, saying, be your authentic self. It's the kind of virtue signalling nonsense you'd have on Ben Shepherd's front door.
Right there.
It's not that woke.
Be your authentic self.
First thing in the morning.
Mirror so he can look at himself.
So he decides to crack a joke. Now, we were talking about this earlier. It wasn't the funniest joke of all time. He's not going to...
I'm not even sure they'd have realised it was a joke, though.
Well, what he said was, tell you what, why don't we just switch it round and why don't you be your inauthentic... Sorry, I remember, I've read my briefing notes. I'm always, always prepared, always prepared. Famously, this building will tell you I'm the most prepared man in showbiz. And he said, why don't you be your inauthentic self? Thinking they'll have a little wry smile, a little crap. Yes, well, no. Of course, it turned into Siberia with all these wokies going, wait a minute.
Hang on.
Inauthentic
This
self?
is the problem.
Inauthentic, this is damaging. This is triggering. This is damaging to my mental health. Oh, my God, I can't deal with this. This man is telling me to be inauthentic. And, of course, the irony is they are all completely inauthentic.
They asked him to go on a course, didn't they?
There's nothing... Yes, they asked him to go on a training course to recalibrate his brain
humour.
So that he did not crack a joke about people being their inauthentic self.
Ashley,
to which I say the world has gone completely insane.
I think Piers Morgan has gone completely insane because I don't think the reason people didn't respond to this joke was because they're woke. I think it's just because it's not funny.
Well, you haven't read your briefing notes because they literally told him to go on a recalibration course. A training lesson.
It just isn't funny, and I don't think it's woke to say be authentic at work. It's not that. It's not a woke.
You've missed the point of the story. They literally told him afterwards. They took him aside and said, "Mr. Clegg, we are going to have to ask you to have your brain recalibrated so you don't insult these wokies."
Mr. Clegg then went on to say that in Westminster they have very fruity banter, and he was just trying to bring a bit of that. I don't think that.
Well, it wasn't even fruity banter. It was the most lame joke imaginable. But this is the thing. The word I hate most in modern society, created by the woke brigade, is this word triggering. Everything is triggering, right? You can't go to a theatre now without somebody with a warning sign. You know,
just like has existed on TV
you're going to watch a Shakespeare play.
decades.
Guess what? People
I'm not messing around, Piers. When you walked in the studio, everybody in the crew, they were... I mean, I've seen it happen.
Signs, warning, he's back. Yes. If you feel triggered by Mr. Morgan's appearance today, in the ITV building, here's where you go to get your brain recalibrated, and he'll be led off to the cells, the woke cells.
Is it because it's sort of indicative of your impact on people that you're so sensitive about this?
No, I just think we used to be a country.
Where people who were women, black or brown people, had to tolerate banter, which actually made people feel...
Well, that's racism. I'm not talking about that.
Made people feel uncomfortable.
You're talking about racism.
This kind of like the idea of woke. What do you think woke means? Woke means being aware of social injustice and other people's lived experiences. That's all woke means.
Let's just hit
and it's been weaponised by... people like you.
Oh, actually, do me a favour.
To write your book.
I'll give you an example of woke. I mentioned this a little earlier, but the last time I appeared with you here, you were a classic wokey that day. Because we had a robust exchange of views. Yeah. We disagreed about stuff. It was all pretty respectful. And then I watched your Instagram for the next, 3 days, where you just played the most ridiculous, violin-laden victim, posting endless little comments from your fans about how you survived the monster, how brave and bold you were.
I've got to go through it again, but we're talking about Nick Clegg.
And you'll be doing it again, won't you? You're already thinking, oh, they're already saying poor Ashley.
Yes,
having to do with it.
I feel like poor Ashley.
No, but this is the point. You're not poor Ashley. You're a strong woman, independent woman.
But being woke doesn't make you weak.
You don't need to
caring about other people's lived experiences. And back in the day, a lot of people went to work and felt uncomfortable with a lot of the jokes. And we see this, excuse of banter all the time. And we also see how it creates this culture where more serious stuff gets brushed under the carpet as banter.
But it's chicken and the egg, right? I believe...
It's not chicken and the egg. Just be respectful to other people.
You're saying it's people like me fueling this stuff, this cultural
The weaponisation of
Actually, what I'm trying to do is preserve what actually this country was built on, which is you can have fun. You can have jokes in the workplace. You can have romance in the workplace, by the way. 40% of marriages used to start in the workplace. How the hell do you do that now? No one can even look at each other without being arrested.
But also, women also had to tolerate their waist being touched, which made them feel uncomfortable.
There are bad men, and by the way, there are some bad women too.
Yeah, but by the way, being woke and being professional in the workplace...
Not every man is a nice person.
Being professional in the workplace is for everyone. It's for women, men, everyone.
Let's not turn them into sterile Facebook woke-ravaged places.
Just a quick check with the gallery. Is Piers hearing you?
Do we need the bell?
Earpiece going? There you go. We did give him an earpiece.
We should be allowed to have fun. You don't want to cross the line. You don't want to be...
Of course you can have fun, but not if people are telling you that they feel uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, you know what? The trouble with the woke brigade is they feel uncomfortable about everything. You give them an orange and they feel triggered because it's not an apple. It's like it's got so ridiculous. We've got this ridiculous snowflakey thing. Stop it. Everyone should just chill, have a bit of fun.
I find it so funny, though.
Slide in the fruit bowl.
We have to stop there because we do have break restrictions, unfortunately, as Piers knows only too well.
Thanks for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.